Welcome to the Sankofa Pan-African series. Please subscribe and turn on your notification buttons if you haven't done so. You can also support us by signing up as a member of this channel and pledging a monthly token amount to this channel through Patreon. No amount that you pledge is too small. Your pledge will ensure that we are able to continue bringing you this channel. Thank you.
So today, everybody is suffering from that, and everybody is now demanding restructuring. Restructuring is really about equity. You cannot, in any way, shape, or form, restructure a country without touching its constitution. So when people are saying we want a new constitution, or somebody is saying we want restructuring, they're essentially saying the same thing.
Okay. So what is the way forward? Regionalism?
Frankly, you see, I hate getting hung up on terminologies.
Okay. What's the way forward?
Whether Nigeria is a unitary state, whether Nigeria is a federation, whatever way Nigeria is structured or governed, the one thing that has to be in place is the guarantee of citizenship rights and the equality of citizens before the law. The supremacy of the law is more important than anything else. So whether we now become a country of regions or remain one of state, I have my preference. I believe that it is more efficient for us to go to a parliamentary system, go back to the old regional systems, perhaps taking into cognizance the different constitutional conferences and the recommendations of the Willings Commission, expand the regions and make them 6. Give them substantial autonomy so that they are able to develop at their own individual paces. Let the federal government control defense, control foreign relations, and such strategic things like the ports. Let the federal government deal with certain issues, control them, but to a very large extent, go back to the pre-coup arrangement that substantially allowed regions to grow at their own pace. For Nigeria to even begin its journey to sanity, it has to, at a minimum, guarantee citizens' rights and become anchored to law.
So, again, my take from that is that the Constitution, which was jettisoned in the 1966, was one which took into cognizance this will of the people that we're saying we need to get back to. Yet the coup happened. How can we expect, regionalism or this going back to even retweaking the Constitution to solve our problems with the same crop of politicians? How can we achieve, any regionalism or any strong, system that would ensure the rights of citizenship that works with the kind of money politics which has been the bane of Nigeria? Because even if that 1999 constitution had been perfect, with the same group of politicians there, we would still be having problems, wouldn't we?
You see, I think it is important that we understand that, number one, in the immediate aftermath of the British departure in 1960, there were 3 regions.
Yes.
Those 3 regions, Nigerians amongst themselves, as young as we were as a country, there were further constitutional development that led to the creation of a 4th region. The process for the creation of that region involved the organizations of referendums and plebiscites. It was part of the Constitution. You know why it was part of the Constitution? The Independence Constitution took cognizance of the right of citizens to express their will So the right to self-determination was an integral part of the Independence Constitution of 1960. In exercise of the right to self-determination, the Nigerian people in constituent assemblies again created a fourth region. The military came in 1966 and truncated that constitutional growth and development. 1966. So Nigerians expressing themselves had 6 years. They had 6 years to practice a constitution that took them almost 10 years to negotiate. And then they grew within 3 years. They added one more region within 3 years. So they could correct themselves, they could grow. By 1966, the military came, and since that unfortunate disaster, what has happened is that Nigeria has stumbled from one disaster to another because the will of the Nigerian people have never been respected since 1966 and has been constrained. So yes, let me come to the question, because you asked a question that must...
Yeah. If we were doing so well, why did the coup happen?
You see, it is critical sometimes that we look a little further back. In my new book, Imperatives of the Nigerian Revolution, and even in the first one, Do Not Die in Their War, I made copious references to historical accounts. One of them referred to a book by the last Governor General of Nigeria. No, he was the last governor of Northern Nigeria, Sherwood Smith. And Sherwood Smith, in his book, made clear that as far back as about 1957, Ahmadu Bello they already had a game in play that if power is lost, the military wing should take power at the center, because it was the only way. It's there in black and white. But the key thing is, there were already plans for Nigeria's destabilization before Nigeria's independence. No, those were always there. But my own argument is that we cannot continue to play victims. We can't.
I think
this is almost. I'm 53 now. We cannot continue to blame our colonial history. There were always plans to destabilize us, but it was up to us. It was up to us.
And you believe, okay, so those plans were there, which played out, which ended up with with our first coup and all of that. But you're saying that inherent within that constitution that was negotiated, that was cobbled together, also based on plebiscites and all of that, the mechanisms were there that could have seen through if that constitution was not jettisoned. Even in spite of the coup, if we had gone back to that constitution, Nigeria would still be on a better track.
Let me say this. The first condition, the human spirit, is justice. Without justice, you can never have peace. You cannot enforce peace if you do not give justice. The 1999 Constitution, which is founded on the 1979 Constitution, is a document of the victor dictating the terms of the union. It wasn't an expression of the Nigerians' will.
So the victor is, you mean the military as the victor?
The people who
the ruling
won,
class.
the people who won the Civil War, dictated the 1979 Constitution substantially. Obasanjo's Constitution of 1979 was a military dictat. It did not come out of the Constituent Assembly of 1977. There were several provisions imported that did not come out of the Constituent Assembly. The presidential system of government did not come out of the Constituent Assembly. It wasn't the recommendation of the Constituent Assembly. The NYSC decree was not part of their recommendation. The Land Use Act was not part of their recommendation. Those were impositions by the Obasanjo government. So the 1979 Constitution is substantially the dictation of the Armed Forces Ruling Council of Obasanjo's government. The 1999 Constitution did not pretend to come from anywhere else. Abdul Salami was quite open in saying that they are fashioning the 1999 Constitution after the 1979 Constitution. So you know the father that gave birth to the 1999 Constitution. I am saying to you that Constitution is essentially the terms of surrender dictated by those who won the Civil War, and that is the basis for the engagement with every other Nigerian. So everyone else, how they want the country to be governed. And if you listen to the pronouncements of certain key individuals speaking on behalf of Northern Nigeria, you hear clearly that even though they are speaking for themselves, whilst they presume to speak on behalf of the people of Northern Nigeria, they are presuming to dictate the terms of relationships and engagement with the rest of Nigeria. And that is why they will be telling us that you cannot touch that Constitution. Somebody even went as far as to say that you need a coup to change the Constitution. Why? Is that the will of the people?
So that explains a lot. But I still want us to address this issue of the fact that the crop of politicians, there is a small percentage of Nigerians that are the gatekeepers for sustaining this fraudulent constitution. You know, I mean, like you mentioned, there are people who get up from the north purporting to be speaking for the north, whereas there are millions of disenfranchised Nigerians in the north. Just like you have them, I mean, in the east, in the Delta areas, in the southeast, and in the west. You have them all over Nigeria. We are a country that has been held ransom by people who purport to be our politicians. How do we get away from that? How do we free ourselves from them?
If you sift through the many things I said earlier, there is one key word I keep going back to, because it is actually at the root of our problems. The Nigerian is not a citizen. There are purportedly 200 million Nigerians, purportedly. In this age and time, we must be the only country of our size anywhere in the world that cannot even say how many
we are.
We are. That is not by accident. The myth of our population is essential to the maintenance of certain lies and certain myths. So we must never find out how many we are and the distribution of that population density, so that they can continue to tell the lies that sustains the current Nigeria, which is what people like us are demanding be ended. So when you speak about this crop of ruiners who call themselves rulers, I would explain very quickly that when the Nigerian truly becomes a citizen, our current ruiners would have run out of Nigeria or they will be in jail. That is simply a function of the fact that if we are truly citizens, the law will rule, wouldn't it? If the law is going to rule, how does the person fainting in the National Assembly stay free on the street? The one that was busy offing mic how does he walk free on the street? All these people that were doing plea bargaining, how can they remain free? Those who are busy dragging bullion vans up and down the place, how can they still talk in a society where there is moral rectitude? So this question presumes that the current state of things, where the Nigerian is not a citizen, he has had weaponized poverty unleashed on him, and weaponized ignorance is not far behind, then those kind of people will remain in power. But that presumption will not always hold true. Every day, the bucket goes into the well. But one day, the bottom of the bucket will drop out. One day will be one day. This cannot continue. You can't sustain this evil regime forever. Might take 5 years, might take 10 years, it might take 20 years. But the one thing I know, and I'm comforted by my knowledge of history, no set of wicked, evil rulers have managed to perpetuate themselves forever. At some point, the people will prevail. And when the people prevail, they will render the account. So the assumption that they will remain there for much longer, I think, I'm not even sure that it is possible to sustain this evil regime beyond 2023 if it lasts that long. Because how long are you going to keep lying to the people in the north that their problems are the people in the south? And then to the people in the south, the problems are the people in the north. Eventually, everybody will find out their real problems are those showing them their enemies.
I've also heard you say that all we need are about 2 million Nigerians who adopt a non-violent methodology. So how can people like you and I strategize to make that happen? What will a non-violent methodology even look like?
Thank you.
It's time for you and I to dream now. Let's dream our Nigeria into reality.
I found in recent, maybe as I've grown a little older, I found that when I have a novel idea to push, I write. I set down my thoughts. Maybe because I'm becoming familiar with the fact of my mortality, and I understand that I will not always be around to make my argument.
It does that to you. When you're at a certain age, that happens.
Yeah. So these days, I just put the thoughts on paper. I've talked for some time about the possibility of nonviolent revolution in Nigeria. And I've talked. And then I sat down in my new book. I laid down, is one thing to talk, is another thing to write. The process of writing demands refinement. Forced to think through what you're putting on paper. So I sat down and I wrote a book that I titled The Imperatives of the Nigerian Revolution. I made it available for free download, and people are able to download it freely. It's not about making money. But there is something interesting in that book, and that is the fact that there is an entire section written by my friend and brother, Taiwo Akinlami. Taiwo Akinlami is a well-grounded pacifist revolutionary of the Gandhist school. I am a man who has pacifism forced on me very early in life. I learned to embrace being a pacifist because I was always too tiny to fight. So I quickly learned how to escape getting myself trashed by talking my way out of trouble. And it became my default position all through my life. I've never really loved the idea of, but I think it's a failure of humanity to begin to exchange blows, talk less of firing shots.
Yes.
Is a complete failure of humanity when that happens. So what we did was that we laid the theoretical foundation and made the argument for the necessity for a Nigerian revolution. We then went on. Taiwo handled that section where he laid down the methodologies.
Okay.
Is not as funk. We don't have to look. The Nigerian state is a well-practiced purveyor of violence. In actual fact, the Nigerian state loves it when you engage it.
Look at what they turned the EndSARS protest into.
No, in fact, the EndSARS one. Even see that. Let me not even go there yet. What happens is
those young Nigerians, I have never been more proud of them. In the way they rose above ethnicity and all of that. And they were insistent on non-violence, on peaceful.
And yet.
Yes.
And yet, the Nigerian state visited violence on non-violent protesters. So now imagine what it does to those who do embrace violence. Now, you must understand very quickly that when we talk about violence, this is also a subjective thing. The Fulani terrorists roaming up and down the length and breadth of Nigeria are by far more violent than any separatist group in Nigeria. But the Nigerian state has not visited violence on them.
Yes.
Boko Haram is by far more violent. I don't know how many Boko Haram people have been visited with violence.
But look at what happens in the Southeast. When people say,
No, the Nigerian state is very good at telling you who a terrorist is. The terrorist is the person demanding rights. If you demand citizenship from the Nigerian state, you are a terrorist.
Yeah.
Boko Haram is not demanding citizenship.
No.
Fulani bandits are not demanding citizenship. Niger Delta militants are not demanding citizenship. They don't have any problems with those ones. The problem are with those who have embraced when you demand secession in Nigeria, for me, and I understand, I don't go around prescribing to people how they should respond to oppression. But when you demand secession in Nigeria, what really happens is that you've allowed yourself to be snookered into a corner. Nigeria has inflicted so much pain that all you want is to get out. And in trying to get out, you are not checking the fact that there is actually no legal room to come out. So the only legal room is to demand that constitution, first of all, be changed to reflect your right to self-determination. That is the only way you can begin to legally demand to secede. So those of us who are demanding restructuring and those who are demanding secession, we actually want the same thing, but we are not hearing ourselves most of the time because the pains being felt by the secessionist makes it impossible for him to hear what I'm saying when I say restructure Nigeria and then you can have your secession if you still want it. So our problem, everything goes back to the laws of citizenship.
I'd love to hear a bit more about how we can strategize around the peaceful revolution.
The first thing we have to do is to unite. If we don't unite, every strategy will fall flat on its face. The moment we begin, you see, when you speak to strategy in this situation, I must quickly explain that there are two things that any strategy must be focused on. Okay. The first one is to understand that nothing will work if we are not united. Our disunity as a people is the ground upon which the longevity of the ruling class is built.
Yes.
As long as, yes, they are actually the ones exposing the fault lines and expanding it. Because as long as for instance now, if the man in Igogon and the man in Kankara Kankara is in Katsina State, the president's home state. That was where they kidnapped over 100 children a few months ago. Igangan is in Oyo State, where the Fulanis attacked and killed several people. The bandits that kidnap children in Kankara, they are Fulani bandits now. But the children they kidnapped, they were Fulani children. The bandits that attacked people in Igangan, they are Fulani, but the people they attacked, they are Yoruba. The people in Igangan, in analyzing their problem, they would analyze it as Fulani attackers came for us. They would not nail it down to the failure of the state to provide the first of its many services to the citizens, which is the guarantee of right to life and property. Yeah. The Nigerian state failed the people in the Igangan. But instead of the people in the Igangan to focus on the Nigerian state, they are focusing on the Fulani criminals. The people in Kankara whose children were kidnapped, they were kidnapped by Fulanis. But because the people in Kankara are also Fulani, nobody is talking about Fulani bandits kidnapping Fulani children. The reality is that the common thread that runs from Kankara to Igangan is the failure of the Nigerian state in the most basic of its responsibilities to those who should be the citizens. We, who considers ourselves leaders in the community of those who are asking questions of the Nigerian state, we have a duty to help the people of Igangan to see that the problem is not a Fulani Yoruba problem, but the failure of the Nigerian state, which is incidentally at this time headed by a Fulani man. But that is just one man. What about all the soldiers, the police? Are they all Fulanis? What about the governor of the state?
What about the people in our National Assembly who have not been vocal enough, to stand up for us?
Because it is not a tribal thing. It's a class thing. It's about class. The Nigerians have to see that the loss of their citizenship as a collective is what has guaranteed the longevity of those who rule them. And until such a time as when they themselves get around to understanding that the man in Igangan, the man in Etiop local government in Delta, the one that is in Kuru in Jos, the one that is in Jukunland in Taraba, the man in Kankara, they are all one. They have to understand the fact that they are one. It is the rulers are one. Whether that ruler is Yoruba, Igbo, Ijo, or Jukun, they are one.
Yeah.
The poor are also one. Whether they are Yoruba, Igbo, or anything, but the poor are the last to understand that.
I actually believe that even though it looks on paper as if we have two major political parties in Nigeria, we have just one. We have one political party.
You don't have political parties.
They break up when it suits them.
Yes. Don't let's fool ourselves. You don't have political parties in Nigeria. There are too many. You see, Nigerians have been for long rather guilty of linguistic inexactitude. We use words that have no bearing on what they are meant to mean. Political party is suggestive of a group of people with ideological commonalities who have now decided to coalesce around the policy platform by which they engage the people to canvass for vote in order to impact their lives. Basically, I would imagine that that's the definition of a political party. But the Nigerian political party is essentially a conglomeration of thieves whose sole purpose is to acquire political office in order that they might monopolize the public purse solely for their own benefit and those of their cronies and assigns. End of story. So how do you call those ones political parties? They are not parties.
No.
They are a platform of robbers.
Thank you so very much.
It's been a pleasure, man.
For all the time you have actually put into thinking, this all these issues through, and for the energy you have put into sharing your ideas about the way forward. Thank you. I really feel very, very privileged.
Thank you very much, man. Thank you, man.